accessing the NICO website, I know that a lot of you are familiar. There is a Facebook page, but I don't know if you are aware or not if that there is an actual website. If you go to the following website, www.nico-ohio.com, let's become very familiar with that. Let me type that in there and see what comes up. Bam, there we are. Okay, the website has information about the agency. Different things about the agency, our Montgomery County ADS, different things that we've done there, some nice little pictures, little snippets. Lucas County is working on theirs. We have a news and slideshow. We have little presentation with individuals that we served or have served in the past. So Dan's definitely been with us for a while, and Gerald, and there's Julius, who unfortunately passed away last year. But you can, when you have time, can sit down and check these out and look them over and all that good stuff. Different newsletters that Montgomery County has put out. There's one that Lucas County has put out. Now, when you come down here, there's a section called Policies and Procedures. So you're going to kind of scroll over a little bit on the website and then bring it on down to Policies and Procedures. I tried to get as many as I could on before the all staff. They should be on no later than the end of next week, but we are going to review quite a few of them today. They are broken into sections, and yes, I realize there's 2 HRs. The first one being general, human resources, finance. There's other categories that will be placed on that website. All you got to do is you click on a category, such as this one, which would be general. On the left-hand side are all the policies and procedures as it relates to that category. And if there is something to the right of it, that means that there's some sort of a form that can be utilized along with that particular policy. So when you look at policy 104 and it talks about communication, over to the right, the form for that is 104A, and that's the office memo template that we have. Conflict resolution, the staff and individual concern form. So there's quite a few on there, and we're definitely not going to go over all of them. Some of these are ones that we've had before. A lot of them have been revised and were implemented December the 1st, and we're going to touch on quite a few of them today. But please keep in mind that all of them are going to be on this website for you to access at any time. Also, when you guys came in this morning and you signed in, hopefully, and returned those 4 pieces of paper to Talesa, one of them was acknowledging that you are aware of where to look up these policies and procedures if you want to go back and refer to them at a later date. Okay? When you access this particular area, it didn't show up on here because I've already accessed it before, but it's going to ask for a password because the public is not going to be able to look at this. It's only for employees, and that password will change from time to time, and when it does change, those passwords will be given out. Currently, the password to get on that is 209N Reynolds, and all that is capitalized. So when you go on there, that's what you're going to type in. Here are the ones that we are going to review today. So let me, I know. And again, we're not, some of them, luckily, you've already went through the specialized training that took place in December. We're just going to touch upon them, not really go word for word, unless you guys want to. Okie dokie. I just thought I'd ask. This one very straightforward with communication. If a staff or individual requests concerns that they would like to address formally with management, they need to fill out this form. And on that website there is an attachment on there as far as being able to download or print off for the template that can be used. Also within the communication policy when it comes to NMT staff, and actually should be with anybody who is driving a consumer, you can use the phone to coordinate pickup, drop off, but you're not to use the phone while driving, whether you're NMT or your direct care staff. You are not to use the phone while driving. The NMT coordinators, you guys are going to be responsible making sure that those phones are charged between the morning and afternoon routes. 108. We talked about this really quickly earlier. Visitors in the workplace, it can't happen for obvious reasons. It looks like we instituted pets in the workplace. I know that there for a while Jeff's dog would come into the office. I've also had my dog in the office before. At any time that an individual is around an animal and does not feel safe, then that animal does need to be removed from the area. Right? I told you this was not going to take that long, right? All staff meetings, they are held, as stated earlier, 4 times a year. And it is mandatory that you attend these. And the ADS director is responsible for recording all staff meetings. Any staff who missed the meeting are required to review the recording during one of the times that it will be listed. The HR assistant is responsible for setting up the video screenings for staff to review and record. Staff are paid for their time. Staff that miss an all-staff meeting and do not review the recording within 14 days will be removed from the work schedule until they are taped, or until the view is taped. Until the tape is viewed. I'll get it out in a minute. So, HR director is responsible for monitoring attendance. Like I said, there's only 4 of these a year. The one in January is usually always the longest, but these are mandatory. They are held January, April, July, and October, the 2nd Tuesday of that month at 10 a.m. The next one is safety.
So we want to make sure that you're being as safe as possible when you're working. Accident prevention is probably easier than having to deal with it. All employees are responsible for following common safety practices. Violation of safety rules is subject to disciplinary action, up and even including termination. If you have something that you've been involved in or you have observed, which could be on NECO property or in one of the homes, stop scrolling. All workplace accidents need to be reported immediately to a supervisor, even regardless of any severity. If there's, you're slipping and falling on the ice, or there's a car accident, or someone trips and falls and hits something, whether it be at ADS or in one of the homes or in the office, make sure that you're notifying a supervisor. Injuries don't always show up right away. There are emergency action plans for fires or tornadoes that should be being reviewed. in the homes, making sure that everybody knows where to meet, what to do if there's a tornado drill or a fire. Also in the ADS sites and at the office, those drills are reviewed. Managers will review their building monthly for any concerns about broken windows or any hazards that are occurring at the sites. If you notice something that needs repaired, please make sure you're letting a manager know. Things such as electrical issues, light sockets, making sure you've got first aid kits, that's a huge one. Making sure that your first aid kit is present and make sure that it's got everything that it needs in it. Nothing worse than you're going to do something and there is no kit available. Homes should have fire extinguishers. If you've got a place to meet, make sure everything's in good repair. It might not be NECO's responsibility, but a landlord issue. So make sure you tell a supervisor what's going on in the houses and sites that you work at.
Purpose is to provide standard instructions and information for staff to respond to emergencies. Policies. If an emergency is non-life-threatening, staff should call their direct supervisor. Residential staff should call the on-call site supervisor, and ADS staff should call their building coordinators. For residential services, an emergency contact sheet, attachment A, should be current and posted in the home, ISP books at minimum. If your HPC books, ISP books need updated, site managers, please get those together. You should have one of these posted in your home so that you know all contact information to call. So you have the Toledo Edison, Columbia Gas, landlords, the county board, which we probably never really talked to, but in the event, their numbers are there. Are you done?
I know, I'm sorry.
Did you change the whole policy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. The executive director from the management team can declare delays to work and calamity days due to inclement weather. When the director declares a calamity day, the HR director should contact Channel 11 to inform them that the agency is closed or delayed, while the ADS NMT director relays communication internally via the agency reporting structure. Do not call Jason. In the event of inclement weather, all staff should monitor Channel 1136 and the NECO website for announcements. If work is delayed 2 hours, all agency operations are delayed accordingly, including shift changes for the residential staff. All staff are aware in the event that there is a bad weather, ice, they could be mandatory mandated to stay over. This is part of it, so please, if it snows and it's 12 inches, do not expect to leave until we can get someone out there safely. If work is canceled, all ADS NMT operations are canceled for the delay and the administration building is closed. Residential supervisor continues, direct support staff should stay with their individuals, and communication with their site supervisors if they need replacement. The site supervisor and residential coordinators are expected to assist in trying to find adequate coverage. But if no staff can be found, direct support staff are expected to stay with the individual. Do we all understand what that means? So no calling Jason. They're not getting us out of here in time. We will get you out. Staff should never leave a shift or leave an individual without approval from their site supervisor and or residential coordinator. To provide agency-wide policies for personal vehicle use with individuals as well as the procedure for mileage reimbursements. Residential staff are required to have a personal vehicle at the individual's home and available for use when working. That means the car should be on the premises, in the driveway, or in the front yard. Not that your father has it, taking himself to a doctor's appointment. We do understand that there are times where your cars will break down. We will work with you. I'm giving you 2 weeks to get it together. If not, you will come off the schedule. And there are no exceptions. Staff are responsible for reporting if their license or insurance is no longer valid. Please do not try to hide this because we will find out. Staff are required to report any lapse in their driver's license or insurance to the HR director immediately. If a staff does not have a valid license, they should be removed from the work schedule until they provide proof of a valid driver's license. If staff report a lapse in insurance, they should work with HR to fix the issue immediately. Staff should never transport an individual without a valid driver's license. All staff and individuals are required to wear a seatbelt when in a moving vehicle. Whenever a staff member takes an individual outside the home, the staff should first inform their direct supervisor of their plan. Staff should also communicate with their supervisor upon return. Staff should always take the individual's medical book with them. Do we know why we take the medical book with you?
Okay, so
Excellent. Any questions?
Yep. I know. One of the things that we've already done, you guys went through the long specialized training when we talked about incident reports. I just want to make sure that you guys are using this form. I do not want to see any old IRs forms come through. If you are in the home and you see old IRs, please make sure the site supervisor is aware. All of those should be pulled out, thrown away, and not used. They are not the proper form, unless you want to come in and write a new one on the new form, which I don't think you would want to do that. So make sure that these forms are in the homes, in the adult day service sites, because these are the forms that we are to be using since the training that took place in December. Does anybody know off the top of their head if they haven't seen these in the home? Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Good, good, good. I am glad to hear that. All right, the next one is, I already went over the organization chart. 205. In order to work here, you have to be 18 years or older, current driver's license, less than 6 points on your license, valid automobile insurance. For adult day service, for the NMT drivers, you have to go through a physical drug screen. You also have to be approved by the agency's insurance in order for us to cover you on our vehicles. You must have a valid high school or GED, clean abuser registry, nurse's aid registry. There's certain checks that we do to make sure that you're not a registered sex offender, or if there's been any Medicaid fraud. You have to have MUI trainings, client rights, CPR first aid, BCI check. All that stuff has to be done, and some of them have to be redone every year, every 4 years, every 3 years, 2 years, 5 years. It just depends on what the situation might be. One of the things that I noticed that was new on here is staff who fail to meet any of the criteria listed above can be removed from the schedule, suspended, or terminated. I used to work for the Lucas County Board of DD, and actually a couple of us in here have, I know. And we are all 18 years or older, grown individuals. We are responsible for making sure that we have what we need in order to do our job. There had been many times when the HR department would come in at the county and say, put your stuff in a box, it's time for you to go, your certification has expired. Not much different here. I mean, we, in the past, have been very lax with that, I think. But just know, it's your responsibility to make sure that your CPR first aid, medication administration, insulin training, if you have that for any of the individuals you work with, G-tube training, MUI, CPI, what am I forgetting? Making sure that we get your current car insurance in, if you get a new license, because the old one expired, bring in a new one. Get a new insurance card, bring in a new one. So here, with the recertification process, employees are responsible for monitoring any, and providing proof of any changes. Do we need a pause? A few minutes, just kind of let me know. The first tape is almost running out, so. If staff notify the HR at least 2 months prior to the expiration of their MedPass CPR first aid certifications, NECA will pay for the cost of the recertification. If staff notify the HR department less than 2 months in advance or fail to notify the HR department, NECA will payroll deduct the cost of the class from the staff and reimburse the staff once the certification is complete. If the staff are registered for a recertification class and fail to show, NECA payroll will take the cost away from your pay. Okay? I know today, one of the 4 pieces of paper you got was an availability form. That has to be filled out. And then anytime you're gonna need a change in that, you need to make sure that you are providing that in a timely manner as well. Outside employment. I realize this is not the highest paying job that you're working in, I get it. Shut up, Ziggy. We are only given so much money from the state in order to pay for wages. Some of you definitely deserve a lot more than what you're getting, and I get that, I do. We've been at this since 2005, this particular agency has, and we've only had, I believe, 2 increases. We used to get them every year, and of course, when we start, it's only been twice. So please keep that in mind. Some of you, your overtime is obnoxious, and you're doing very well financially, I'll just say that. So as far as outside work, I understand, like I said, some of you, definitely probably need a second job in order to make ends meet. I get that. But I will say this as the director and owner, that this should be your first priority. Well, may or may not agree with that, but that's what I'm saying. And if there comes a time when there's conflict, we'll have to probably sit down individually and address that. A lot of people think this is an easy gig and go out and get certified to provide services. I love it. I mean, we really need good quality individuals providing services. No issues there. If you are an independent provider or planning to become an independent provider, just as long as you let me know ahead of time in writing. I have received a few of those, and I know that there are a few in here that are independent providers. Don't have an issue with that. However, once you become an agency provider, you cannot work for the agency, okay? There's a big difference between an independent provider and an agency provider. So don't be surprised if I find out that you're an agency provider working here and we have to say, it's time for you to go, okay? All right. Also, when you were hired, you did a non-compete. So if you do leave the agency to become an agency provider, trying to obtain individuals that NICO currently serves for at least a 1-year period, legal ramifications could potentially occur. Okay? We didn't have in here that we were going to go over the financial stuff because I know that was a big part of that training in December. But I just want to make sure and make some clarifications here because some of you have come in and said, what the hell? Because it wasn't like this before. Over here with the in-home ledger, there are 2 sides, okay? And I thought it was on the front too, but definitely on the back side here, there's a bunch of signatures here. Signature initial. Staff signature initials only need to sign an initial here once. So anybody who goes through and signs off on the money at the end of every shift, beginning of every shift, just as long as you have your signature and your initials in this box at least once, you're good for the month. Okay? So it's not like, okay, this line right here, let me sign an initial. This line here, let me, and I'm sure some of it, and it's my fault. I screwed that up and put it on there and freaked the other trainers out because it wasn't on there before. But we had to have that as part of the form, and I was like, oh, slap it on over here. So that's why that is there. And again, I apologize for that confusion. I would like Amanda to go to this next one. It's scheduling.
The purpose and the scope, the document lays out the agency policy and procedures.
Hard to hear that.
With respect to scheduling, direct support to staff provide residential services. Scheduling policies. All residential staff must be scheduled to work every other weekend. That is mandatory. Not I want to work a Saturday, I'm only available on a Sunday, every other weekend. Staff are required to sign off on their monthly schedule by the 28th of the month prior to the schedule. By signing off, staff accept responsibilities for their assigned shift. Should a staff become unavailable to work an assigned shift, it should be the responsibility of the staff to find coverage. Does everyone understand what that means? Don't let me see all the hands at one time. So if you pick up, if you sign a shift and you are unavailable to work, what should you do? What should be your next step? Yes, you do. Pick up that call log and call. And then reach out to your manager if you're unsuccessful. But it is your responsibility first and foremost. Staff may request placement in a different home or site. A lot of people come in and say, I want to change sites. That does not mean that you just fill out the piece of paper and you change the site. You can fill it out. If a spot becomes available, then we will transition you out once your spot has been filled. That could take months, it could take weeks. It is not something that can happen right away. Pickup shifts. Staff are responsible for staffing any pickup shifts that they sign up for. So if you pick up numerous shifts and now all of a sudden on day 3 you are burnt out, you pick them up, they belong to you, and the same thing applies. You must find your own coverage if you do not want to work those shifts. Newly hired residential staff, non-overtime. Priority for staffing and pickups, this is how it should go. Newly hired staff, residential staff, they should be the first ones you go to. If there's overtime, ask them could they pick up those shifts. Non-overtime residential staff should be next. Non-overtime ADS NMT staff, they should be third on the list. That does not mean run in because you know that the book is there and just pick up all the shifts inside the books, because if we have staff that are not up to their 80 hours in their full-time staff, we will take your hours from you and give it to those individuals in residential. Overtime, Oh, and ADS NMT coordinators. These people should be the last people, Keisha's, the site managers, George, Mike Hayes, all of them individuals should be last when it comes to pickup. So we should give it to the ones that really, he is a regular worker, but we may potentially call him like you were just asking for new hours here lately. Yeah. Gotcha. Ziggy falls on that list as well. Medical staff and pickups. Medical staff are hired to take individuals to doctor's appointments and to assist in medical documentation care. Medical staff are allowed to pick up hours in the individual's home only with approval from the medical coordinator. And when it does not put medical staff in overtime. Medical appointments take priority over direct care. Therefore, medical appointments have to be scheduled before staff can pick up shifts in the individual home. The document contains the following procedures relevant to scheduling. And something else that we have noticed. If the in-office pickup sheet has someone's name on there, do not come in there and scratch their name off because you have a friend with the manager or you like that house. That is unacceptable. And if we find that out, you will receive a corrective action. Do not scratch off individuals' names.
And
That is correct. So if Monica has a pickup schedule in her hand and Sean has one, the only one that is valid is the one that is kept within the office. And that is the one that we will go by. So if you call and say, well, on this shift, I picked up and this is my sheet, we're going to go by the one in the office and say, well, no, Monica's schedule, so Sean, you're going home. So to avoid that, just please be courteous to your coworkers. No scratching off names. Every month, site supervisors are responsible for creating monthly schedules for staffing their assigned houses. Follow these steps. Get last month's schedules, attach A for each house. Identify shifts that need to be changed. The individual's ISP changed their staffing hours or as needed. Staff availability changes, and new staff are hired and need to be added to the schedule. Keep shifts that do not need to be changed the same. Schedules unfilled shifts accordingly to the following rules. Rule 1, scheduling staff according to their availability. List on their availability form. Scheduled full-time staff 64 to 80 hours in a every 2-week period. Scheduling part-time staff 32 to 63 hours in every 2-week period. Got that, Ms. Rosemary?
Yes, ma'am.
Schedules each staff members to work 1 weekend shift. Do not schedule staff into overtime. All staff should be scheduled at 32 hours, leaving room for you to pick up that additional 8 hours. Do not schedule them at 40, 43, 45. Submit the schedule to the residential coordinator for approval no later than the 20th of the month for review. Then the schedules will return, the final schedules back to the site supervisors. Site supervisors should then work to fill all remaining unstaffed shifts as follows. Create a pickup calendar. Contact staff to try to fill the pickup calendar following the staffing priorities listed above under pickup shift policy. Review all pickup shifts and remaining openings with residential coordinator by the 25th. On the 25th, post any remaining pickup spots in the schedule book held by the residential coordinator. Inform staff that the schedule and pickup calendars have been posted. That means you are then responsible to come in and sign off. If you do not sign off by that date, you will, moving forward, be removed from the schedule. We will just assume that you are not going to be working. Once the schedules has been approved by the residential coordinator and posted in the office, they need to be the following procedures by the 28th of every month, which is good because we only have the 25th. Come to the office, review your schedule, shifts upcoming month, sign the back of the schedule. Signing the schedule confirms that the staff have been informed of their assigned shifts and accept responsibilities. Review the pickup calendar and sign up on the calendar for available shifts as desired. Follow overtime procedures if additional hours would consist overtime. Depending on that day of the week, the 28th of the month occurs, the residential coordinator finalizes scheduling by completing the following steps in a timely manner. Review all schedules to see if any staff signatures are missing. Inform site supervisors and assistant supervisors of missing signatures. Site supervisors are then responsible for getting in touch with the staff to have them sign off on the schedules. Give staff 24 hours to come in, find a way to sign the schedules. If staff fail to sign off on the schedules within 24 hours, remove them from the schedule and add their shifts to the corresponding pickup schedules. Follow the corrective action procedure, review the pickup schedules for any errors, and identify any remaining unstaffed shifts. Work with the site supervisors and assistant site supervisors to find staffing for the empty shifts. If no staff can be recruited, the site supervisor and residential coordinator assumes responsibility for working the shifts. So you will see us out there, all of us. Staff are responsible for working or finding coverage for all shifts. If staff want to switch their shift, they need to receive prior approval. Does everyone know what to do if you want to pick up or trade a shift? Call who? Wrong. And what do you do with the paper in office? And then what? And then it comes to myself and I sign off. Say it again, Tyrone. Tyrone said that you come into the office, you pick up schedule. You sign off on the form in the office saying, hey, I, Amanda, am going to work Danielle's shift. I am going to sign off that I am working her shift, and that now becomes my responsibility relieving Danielle. So if I don't show up, guess who's in trouble? Amanda.
Do you still fill that form out when you pick up on the pickup calendar, or no? Because I've seen staff filling that form out in the past.
That is just pickup and trading shifts. It states it at the bottom what it's for. Yes. Work with the switching shifts and schedules. Fill out a time off request form. Complete the signature on both staff signature switching shifts. Submit the form to the site supervisor to sign off. Submit the form to the residential coordinator to sign off on. Turn the form in to the director of HR. Calling off scheduled shifts. See PTO policy PMP 230. Any questions about those schedules? You get no shifts covered. Oh yeah, the big one is vacation. I know a lot of you have a lot of vacation and there are things that we want to do. Right now we are very short-staffed, so we may not approve it. If it is denied, you can then do it at a later date, but we will try to accommodate you as much as possible. But just because you fill out the form does not mean it will be approved. Yes, Vicki?
Can we cash them in? Can we go back to that police?
No.
Huh?
No. Use it or lose it. Use it or lose
Can't
it.
use it.
We'll individually discuss that.
Okay.
Just because you got 120 hours in. Yes.
Oh, there are going to be times when your individual that you work with is going to be out of the home, whether it's visiting family, we hope that that's the case, but they could be in the hospital, in jail, someplace. That just because your individual is not there does not mean that you get a freebie pass and that you're off just because they're off. You are still a NICO employee and you could be placed in another home that you're trained in for the shift that you were scheduled. So to provide the clear procedure for when an individual is hospitalized or away for another reason, an individual is away during a scheduled shift, the staff scheduled to work is required to call their site supervisor 30 minutes into their shift to see if coverage is needed at another home. If the site supervisors move staff to supervise a different individual, the staff is required to accept and needs to have been properly trained on the individual's ISP. This policy applies to every shift for every day that the individual is away from their residence. So if your individual, if you're scheduled 3 to 11 on a Tuesday and they are in the hospital, you need to contact your immediate supervisor to see if they need you in another home that shift for 3 to 11. You're not just automatically off. Tyrone, you have a question?
I do. So what's the time period? From 3 to 11, or is it an hour after your scheduled time?
You will call 30 minutes into the shift and they will let you know at that point. And then after that, they'll let you know because they should know by then if you're needed someplace else. And if not, then they'll let you know. And then every shift, then third shift would call their site supervisor again. Hey, am I needed in another house? You have to, everyone that's scheduled has to remain as scheduled. Any other questions? Good question, Zeke.
time we